I'm gonna fight 'em off. A seven-nation army couldn't hold me back. They're gonna rip it off, taking their time right behind my back. And I'm talking to myself at night because I can't forget. Back and forth through my mind, behind a cigarette.
Jason, how are you, sir?
Greg, I'm doing quite well. Yourself?
Great. Uh, we are here to talk about hockey because so much is going on. We're here to talk about the Olympics are coming up, and we may or may not trash the scant news which is coming out about the Malayan ice rink and how absolutely unprepared they are for that. Um,
I'm not
but
sure. I'm not sure if you saw the story where they were. I think it was the rink where the women are going to be playing, and there was a hole in the ice, and they had brought out like a watering can to try and fill the hole up with water.
that's nice. I think I think that is technique. That is exactly by the rules how you're supposed to fix a deficient ice rink. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's amazing. You look at some of the video and the pictures coming out, and you just wonder, like, is this the first time that these contractors have built an ice rink? And number two, like honestly, have you been to large stadium events, specifically arenas? Like, how exactly are you going to fix everything and then stream in 15,000 people to watch, the best hockey in the world? It's quite ridiculous.
The Romans were building colosseums like two millennia ago, so you got to imagine that Italians have some construction capabilities in their history. So
Right, right. Well, no slight on the Italians. It's just that this particular project, they have done an awful job. I mean, it's just like you think about the anxiety which now the all the Olympic teams have to plan for. Your dressing rooms are not going to be right beside the rink. You just have to worry about all the logistics because you can't have any assurance that anything's going to be done for you here, right? Like
yeah,
you need an additional team. And so I guess, maybe for the big countries or, for the big teams, that's okay. But, some teams are going to get caught short.
I'm thinking it might be an advantage for the lesser teams because they're not used to fancy dressing rooms necessarily. They maybe are more accustomed to having to take a shuttle bus from their dressing room to the arena,
That's
where
right.
the NHL players will be livid if they're not getting a four-course meal provided to them in their swanky dressing room with reclining chairs.
So I don't want to spread misinformation. I did see some sort of mention that the dressing rooms are being built in a separate building right beside the arena, which then tells me that so
They have to walk over other skates
what exactly
with
is
their
happening?
skate plates on.
So you've got the gold medal game and first intermission. What exactly are you expecting the two teams to do? I don't understand what's going on.
What if a guy has to go to the bathroom partway through the game? They have washrooms in the basement of that arena that they can go to.
Yeah, these are questions better left unasked because,
Yeah.
yeah, they're making an absolute hash of it. You think about all the arenas that are available around the world, ready to use, a known quantity, and yet they decided to do this. Absolutely ridiculous.
Well, they only had 7 years lead time.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's just bonkers. But, anyways, more important things than the Olympics, at least temporarily. The Toronto Maple Leafs, as of today, I'll start that again because I think there was a glitch in the video. You looked away in disgust, so I'm going to start that again.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. January 13th, 2026. The Toronto Maple Leafs are officially in a wild card spot. Now, the Buffalo Sabres do hold a game in hand, and they're only a point behind. But as of this moment, because I don't think any NHL games are going on, they're holders of a wild card spot. That is not at all anything to celebrate, but at least the world is coming back to normal, or at least temporarily.
I was going to say you're going to be in a happier mood this call than the last couple calls. And the Leafs' recent performance has probably put to rest any thought of an Austin Matthews trade that I had postulated in the last call that we had. So I was listening today to the hockey show on Sportsnet with Marchese and Mike Futa, and they were talking, I think, with Elliot Friedman about how well Austin Matthews and William Nylander have been playing since they both came back from injury, and they were suggesting maybe a little bit of time up in the rafters, watching how the rest of their team was playing without them, has motivated them because they both seem to be playing really well from all accounts. I mean, you're on the ground there in Toronto. You could probably fill me in more, but no one's clamoring for their heads right now.
Yeah, yeah, no, the masses are quieted, at least temporarily. It looks like Austin is moving a lot better. Moving, he's much more comfortable. It was a nice little goal that he scored against Colorado yesterday, the juggernaut that is the Colorado Avalanche. So he scored that, and then of course gave the crowd this very smirky look, which everybody loves. And so, yeah, hopefully, who knows? I mean, they're going to play the Mammoth tonight. They've got a tough road trip, but the goalies are playing well, and I think for the Leafs, that's the end all and be all, really.
Yeah. Was it a smirk or was it a please trade for me look?
Time will tell. Time will tell. But so it's neither here nor there when someone scores a goal and they go a little bit too confident or too arrogant. But when a two-time 60 goal scorer gives you that arrogant look, at least he can back it up. So
Well, he's playing well now, so that's good. But what's amazing is I think they've gone 7-0-2 in their last 9 games, so 16 points out of a possible 18. And the result of that is they are finally in a wild card spot,
it's
which
tight,
is
isn't it?
well, it's I mean it's I don't think I've seen anything like this in like I'm trying to think the last time I saw it. But I mean, there they are. There's a team that's 7-0-2. What are they like? Just looking here, how many games have they played? 45, 46? 45 games. They got 53 points. I mean, I remember in the dog days of the 1980s when the Canucks and Jets would battle out for fourth place in the old Smythe division, and they might have 65, 70 points by the end of the year.
Right.
500 isn't going to get you into the playoffs anymore. I mean, the last few years, it's been 95, 96 points is what you've needed, at least in the West. In the East, I think it's been 91 or 92, but that's still 10 games over 500.
Yeah.
Even with all these loser points.
Yeah.
So it's it's crazy. I mean, it's crazy again. Like the Leafs, look what they've done. They've got 53 points, and they're 5 points out of one of the top 3 spots in the Atlantic. Like there seems to be a bit of separation going on. So, like in the Atlantic, you got Detroit, Tampa, and Montreal. I think they're at 60, 59, and 58 respectively, and they jump up and down over one another. They fall down a spot depending on who's playing that night and what the result is, whether they get a win or a loser point. But those 3 teams are like they're 5 points ahead of the Leafs. They're 6 points ahead of the Sabres. And as we're seeing, you got to go on crazy runs to make up 5 or 6 points and hope that those other teams don't make it. I mean, in the Metropolitan Division, I think you got Carolina. I think they're the number one team in the East. They got 60 and 56. Detroit's got 60 and 47 games. Tampa, I think, has got the best record on sort of point percentage. They got 59 and 44, so they got a couple games in hand on Detroit and three on Detroit and 2 on Carolina. Those 4 teams seem like they're destined for the playoffs, but everybody else, I mean, you go on a little bit of a run, you can move up. You go on a losing streak, you can drop out of the playoffs pretty quickly.
Can we stop on Tampa for a moment? Tampa is, I mean, it's scary, it's dangerous, and they are creating separation. But they're on I think a 10-game win streak at least,
Yep.
if not more. And
At least haven't made up any points on them.
Right, but Tampa, so I haven't watched their games, but I've seen highlights, and the problem I see is that they're playing with swagger. Last night they played, I'm not even sure against who, but for some nonsensical reason, other than the fact that Tampa wanted to show that they're a tough team, there was a double fight that broke out for absolutely no reason, and Nick Paul went up and absolutely snowed somebody. But you know, you gotta love that. It's a regular season game, middle of the season. It's so easy to turn your shoulder or what have you. And here the Tampa guys are sticking up for, these perceived slights, which really wasn't even a big hit. And they're
Well,
just going to town. So John Cooper, I think probably is the best coach in the league, and he just pumps the tires of players in a way that, that really gets them going. But it's not every coach that would sort of allow for this, but I think he probably has created a system where he demands excellence. But yeah, if you want to go and you want to kick somebody's head and go for it, and let's do the penalty kill.
Well, when Tampa was making 3 cups in a row, this was the kind of, again, like everybody talks about sort of having team toughness. Like you don't have to have like Matt Rempe's or Ryan Reeves on your team, but you have to have team toughness and guys who stand up for one another. And that's, you sort of see like the weaker teams in the league. And I mean, we'll talk about Vancouver in a sec, but I mean, you don't see that kind of fight out of the Canucks, and you haven't seen that fight out of the Canucks for like since their trips to the Cup or their trip to the Cup in 2011. But when they were 2010, 2011, 2012, when they were one of the better teams in the league, like they had that team toughness. You had guys like Kessler and Burrows and Max Lapierre, like those kind of guys would do exactly what Nick Paul did. And I mean, Nick Paul, I don't think it was nothing. I mean, it was a 5-1 game. And I think his name's Arbles, who for Philadelphia, and he kind of took a run at one of the Tampa players in the corner against the boards, kind of a cheap shot. And yeah, I mean that's what you'd like to see. Like there's clean open hits that guys end up having to end up getting into fights for. Like that was a bit of a cheap shot. Game's 5-1, it's out of reach, but you don't let that go. And that's Tampa showing that team toughness is what they were showing when they went to the Cup, and they're doing this without Victor Hedman. Like when Victor Hedman gets back, solidifies that defense even more. I mean, the experience that those guys in the back end are getting is going to probably pay dividends in the playoffs. But again, it's going to be a gauntlet in the East. I mean, it has been for years. I mean, and again, Florida's getting healthy. Florida's just 1 point out of a playoff spot. Like I was saying there, like the Leafs, like after Carolina, I think the Islanders have got like 55 points in the Metropolitan, so they've got a couple more points. But I mean, between the Leafs and the Panthers, there's 3 playoff spots available. One's got to go to a Metropolitan team, but there's 2 points separating them. The Leafs got 53. I think Buffalo's got 52. Philly, Washington have got 52. Boston's got 52. And then Pittsburgh, Florida have got 51. And I mean, all of those teams have played well enough this year they could make a case for getting into the playoffs, and all of them have had some sort of setbacks too. That I mean, again, if any of them sort of go on a losing streak, they might play themselves out. But you also got like the Rangers, the Rangers, the Devils. Who else is down there? The Senators. I mean, God knows what's happening in Ottawa if they're going to be able to bounce back from whatever rumors hit them next. But
Right.
I mean, all those teams, like Ottawa looked like a team last year that was taking a step forward. The Devils made the playoffs last year. Are those teams capable of doing a Toronto Maple Leaf and getting sort of 10 and 12 and all of a sudden vaulting themselves into a wild card spot, bumping somebody else down? I mean, like the only team that probably is out of it is Columbus. They're tied with the Senators at 45 points. They just made a coaching change, bringing back like 70-year-old Rick Bowness. I don't know what's going to go on there, but you got to figure they're going to maybe be join the few sellers there's going to be in the league. But even in the West, I mean, the bottom teams are all still bunched up enough that one of them could get into the playoffs and be cannon fodder for the Avalanche in round one. But like the East is going to be crazy. Like the playoffs there, that's going to be a complete gauntlet for whoever comes out of there.
Right. Well, when you talk about team toughness, because it is a violent sport, and because it's a sport at the NHL level, which so heavily skews itself towards handsomely paying the superstars, and then really, by comparison, not paying the pluggers very well. And because of the salary cap system, there's 60% of your team, 65% of your team are pluggers. And so when it comes to team toughness, you have to somehow have the buy-in that it's an absolute mission where you're in it together and you're fighting. And so I think you're right. I mean, I think all the winning teams that you can remember of decades past, they had that toughness. They didn't let the little things go. And it's a fine line between taking too many penalties and getting burnt on it. But actually standing up, not taking little things, not letting other teams take any liberties, and then being on a mission and buying in, sort of 1 to 23 sort of thing. And I think so. You talk about Vancouver. I mean, the Leafs have been such a soft team, for so many years, and so just allowing everything to happen. I mean, Austin Matthews in years prior has got taken out with very dirty hits, and everybody turns away as if they didn't see it. And so I think you get that sort of system when you have 2 tiers on your team, which is the superstars, which are insulated and making all of the money, and then the pluggers. And so, most people wouldn't say that 900,000 US or 1.5 million US is not enough money, but on an NHL team, you are a plugger then. And so, yeah, you need to somehow get the buy-in. You need the fourth line guys who are going to be willing to risk injury, who are going to be willing to go on the injured reserve list because they broke a hand or they've tweaked something or they've torn something fighting for you, and you need that buy-in.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I mean, when you listen to sort of former players in lots of sports, but in hockey, you'll hear stories of, again, like third, fourth line guys or like guys who are kind of fringe NHLers who are sort of experiencing body issues sort of in their post career days. And you ask them like almost to a person, they're going to sit there and say, and if you ask me if I'd do it again, I'd do it again in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
And that's where, again, like you have to get a number of those kind of guys on your team. I mean, we've seen that with Florida the last 3 years. Has Florida been like they got some skilled guys, but their skill guys also lead by showing that team toughness. And then it's easy for the third, fourth line guys to say, hey, if Kachuk, if Bennett, if Barkov are doing this, like I better be doing it too. And that's what they sort of talk about with, I keep going back, like Sidney Crosby's probably my favorite player in the league. But I mean, there's a guy who sort of leads by example, and he gets chippy and he doesn't really go out there and fight, but he doesn't shy away from contact.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah.
And I don't know if Matthews, and again, I haven't watched enough of their games the last 3 weeks to sort of say I'm kind of going by what I'm hearing, but maybe they're playing with a little bit more of that place. I mean, everybody sort of jumps down Nylander's throat when he has one of his like coasting games, but I mean, during the playoffs, he's been kind of their best performer. over the last 4 or 5 years.
Well, so there was so the Leafs, yeah, I don't think are tough enough, period. But I saw a highlight just maybe 10 days ago. Macklin Celebrini, he jumped in and took care of somebody, not particularly well, but he jumped him because that guy hit Will Smith.
Yep.
I watched that hit. Will Smith got hurt on the play. I didn't think it was that bad, but your super duper star jumps in. He doesn't wait for anybody else. Whereas on the Leafs, to a person, Austin Matthews, William Nylander, and John Tavares would have looked off to see whether or not the other winger is going to jump in. And then if not, and they really had to do something, then they'd probably just sort of put hands up at the face, so the other guy could, push back against them and they'd have some, tiddlywink sort of thing. But the Leafs don't have a naturally nasty type of team, which is why they tried to build it. But yeah, it starts from the very top, and they don't have guys that are going to stand up for themselves. I find that very interesting. I think Bedard has actually played with a little bit more sandpaper this year. I could be wrong, but I think, from what I've seen, he's kind of in your face, but he's also getting in the middle of things. And I think Macklin Celebrini has sort of looked at, how do I want to do this? Do I want to do the Brad Marchand thing and create some space for myself, or do I want to just let it happen to me?
Well, I mean, again, the comparison that you hear the most for Celebrini is to Crosby. And so the fact that he would have a little bit of that sort of gumption to jump in and stand up and sort of protect himself, he might also be looking at the rest of his roster and say, like, and maybe Bedard's doing the same thing. Like, well, if I don't do it for myself, who else am I? I mean, there's only so long that Celebrini's been able to rely on Ryan Reeves,
Right.
right? So not that he's relying on Ryan Reeves, but I mean, he's probably seeing, like, reading the tea leaves and going, like, I better get this into my game,
Yeah.
and I don't have to. He doesn't fight all the time. I mean, that was, again, I think from your comments, a couple of comments today, I think a lot of fringe NHLers would like it if you were a ref, because there'd be a lot of questionable boarding calls that would get unpenalized.
Yeah, I guess.
The hit on Will Smith was, I mean, it
From
ended up
behind?
looking worse. It was behind, and it looked probably worse than it was, and it feels worse because Will Smith has been concussed and out. But
Right.
like, will but yeah, I mean, but I agree with you. I mean, seeing Celebrini, and again, what does that do for everybody else in the team when it's like, here's this young 19-year-old kid, fresh to the league, is already sort of playing with the kind of gumption you sort of see like a guy like Corey Perry
Yeah.
play with, that he learned over his time with Anaheim. I don't think Corey Perry was like that the first couple of years he was in the league.
Yeah, yeah, you got to pay your dues as a young guy, and if you are the super duper star on the team, but you are not taking any shifts off, if you're the one getting dirty, and you're the one getting punched in the face and giving it back, then yeah, I think you're leading by example. So, by the way, a couple things. Scott Lawton got cracked from behind, and I think cut his nose just a couple of games ago, no penalty. And Ryan Reeves, tough guy, nice, yeah, I mean, good guy. I mean, he's rough around the edges, but he absolutely got smoked by Columbus's Olivier.
Yeah.
He did not do well in that fight.
Well, Matthew Olivier is kind of the guy that nobody really wants to fight
Right.
nowadays. And I think Reeves was, what was the story? Like, Olivier, I think San Jose was kind of up, and Olivier kind of came to him and said, "Hey, I need a fight to get the crowd going." And like, because I saw Reeves interviewed after the game, and they were kind of saying like, "Hey, you guys were up. Like, why are you taking that? Like, you don't have to take that fight with arguably the toughest guy in the league now." And Reeves was like, "Well, like, there's a there's a code out there, and someday I'm going to need, like, somebody to take a fight with me when I need to get the guys going, and kind of paying it forward kind of logic." And it's like, well, I don't know. There's very few of those guys left in the league,
Right.
and like, I think Reeves at the point where he could turn that one down. But I mean, I guess good for him. But man, you're right. He got clocked, and it's I don't think he'll be asking Olivier for a rematch.
No, and Olivier, so I didn't really even know who he was until he stood up Matt Rempe during, remember Rempe? He
Yep.
uh he went through the league and he was winning, and then Olivier, who's probably about 6 to 8 inches shorter, just stood his ground and figured out how to hit the kid. And then afterwards, what was most impressive, really, is the fact that in the interview, he was just sort of very matter of fact, didn't crow about it, just very matter of fact, very sort of professional. So at least he's got that aura around him, and I think the kid can score as well, right?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
he's like
Okay.
he's a double digit scorer. I mean, he's kind of like what Reeves kind of brought to the table like 10 years ago, because Reeves used to sort of pot like 8 to 12 goals. Olivier's a better scorer. I think he's got better hands. Like, he can legit play the third line minutes in Columbus,
Wow.
and doesn't sort of hurt the team when he's on the ice. That's the problem with a guy like Rempe. I mean, and I don't know if Olivier's 6 to 8 inches shorter, but I mean, Rempe's taller than most of the guys in the league. He's going to at least be 3 or 4 inches taller than most guys.
Right.
But I mean, the problem with Rempe, and I think the Rangers have realized this, is he's like where Ryan Reeves is now in terms of you could probably play him 6 to 8 minutes a night. It's situational. It's probably looking for a fight. Um, Rempe, I think, I mean, all these guys can play hockey to a certain, can have got hands to a certain degree, but there's a difference between being an NHL scorer and an AHL scorer and a junior hockey scorer.
Right.
There's gradations, right? So
Right.
like all these guys were really good junior players. They all probably scored in junior.
Yeah, I think Nick Kypreos scored like 100 and something points in the OHL in his final year.
Yeah.
Yeah, Nick Kypreos. He of Grant Fuhrer fame.
It's good that Leaf fans can move on from things.
But well,
I remember when Bobby Bonds scored with a broken leg.
92, 93, 93, 94. I mean,
Yes, yes.
what can you say?
Yeah.
For the kids who are watching hockey nowadays, I know that you think that the Matthews era is all that. All I can say is this: get yourself a VCR tape of The Passion Returns. VCR is this old machine that you have to actually get a tape to play. But watch it because it's just well worth it. Because I tell you, Killer and everybody else, Wendell
I
Clark,
just
everybody
yeah.
else, it was just
I,
phenomenal.
I just know that if I've got a friend who's a Leafs fan who's your vintage, I just need to say 2 words to set you guys off, and that's Carey Fraser.
Oh, jeez. I know. I know. Just so
We would
painful.
have won the cup if it wasn't for Carey Fraser.
Well, yeah, it was like the immaculate, cut. It was just amazing. It's amazing. I didn't see it. Did you see it? I didn't see it. Anyways, and thankfully, because Toronto carries the weight that it does, and it's got such a big fan base. Finally, what was it, 15 years ago? Carey Fraser admitted he was wrong. So, anyways, it is what
I
it
think
is.
he just admitted he missed it. There's a difference between
No, no,
being
no.
wrong.
He admitted he was wrong, and he was begging for forgiveness. But
Oh,
whatever,
jeez.
whatever, whatever. He's a has gone. Anyways, good hair though. Good hair. I mean, like I'm totally jealous. Yeah,
I've long ago stopped being jealous of people with hair. It's a futile exercise.
that's right. How are things in Canuckland?
Well,
So,
as good as they've been in Toronto, they the fortunes for the Canucks the last few weeks have not been. They've been about the opposite of what's been going on in the center of the universe.
right.
So
Well,
since I think,
how are the three players doing? Zeev Bone, Oren, and Rossi.
well, Rossi's injured.
Okay.
William was a healthy scratch last night. Probably give him some time to sort of take a step back and watch what's going on. Ogren's been playing well still, and he's been getting some chances up the lineup. But again, Ogren was not. If Ogren's the best piece that they end up getting out of that deal, it's not quite as 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 good. But I mean, it's early days, and the Canucks are. I mean, they've finally nestled into the bottom of the standings. The Winnipeg Jets and their 2-game win streak has vaulted them past the Canucks, and Vancouver's I think 11 points out of a playoff spot right now. Like it's like everyone here knows where this season is headed, and it's just we're just kind of wanting the team to play with a little bit more. We were talking about sort of team toughness and sticking up for your
Right.
teammates. That's kind of, I mean, I think the disappointment for Vancouver fans, I think, has been the performance of some of the veterans, particularly the guys that re-signed, like Brock Besser. Demko's hurt again. Um, Garland's been in and out of the lineup recently. He's been playing well, but I mean, the watch right now is just on who's going to get traded, when they're traded, and what the return's going to be. And like as Canuck fans are wont to do, they're already anticipating a poor return and assuming the Canucks will do Canuck things. But I mean, they had after the Hughes trade, I think we talked sort of in the aftermath of that, and they went on a 4-0 run.
Right.
And since then, 10 games, 1-6-3. So that's 5 out of a possible 20 points. We were talking about how all those teams in the East have bundled up there in that playoff range of 53 to 51 points, and their point percentage for the season is like 1.17, 1.18 to 1.1 down to 1.4, 1.3. I mean, 5 points in 20 games or 5 points in 10 games is like 0.5.
Yeah.
So you're not going to make up points on anybody. You're just going to keep falling further down, which for the Canucks might not be a bad thing. I mean, that's people have been clamoring here for a few years to say, like, we should have done a full rebuild after 2012 when they lost out to the Kings. And I think that Mike Gillis, the general manager at the time, was pushing for that. The ownership didn't want that. He got moved out. 2018 when Trevor Linden came in, like he was also pushing for, hey, like let's take a step back. Yeah, true, we got the Sedins here, but like they can help be the mentors around a move like that. Let's get younger. Ownership didn't want that. Jim Benning sort of swoops in and he was involved with it. He was a GM at the time, but again, like he's like telling the ownership, hey, I think we can do this a little bit quicker.
Yeah.
And the retool hybrid rebuild, whatever they're wanting to call it, different names they've given it to it over the years,
I saw the
isn't
hybrid.
isn't flying anymore.
I
Yeah.
saw the hybrid rebuild as a headline just a few days ago. Are they hawking that again?
Well, they were. Now I think Jim Rutherford recently just came out and said, "Oh yeah, we're definitely just in a rebuild,"
Oh,
but they
okay.
haven't like the media here have been noting, and Canuck Twitter has been all over it too. Like if they're in this rebuild, like you still got Sherwood. Now again, you have to have trading partners, and we're all hoping that they're going to maximize their return, and you got to trust that the guys at the top kind of have an idea what they're doing. I think some people in this market are skeptical of that, but I mean, Rutherford's got the nickname Trader Jim for a reason. He's been relatively successful at doing it. And the trades that they've made, like the Hughes trade, you're in that corner, you have to make a trade. They got a pretty good return, like
Fantastic.
on paper, right? So you got to hope that they got UFAs. They've got like Kiefer Sherwood, who's going to get moved for sure at some point. And his play's been kind of up and down, but I imagine it would be. The guy's been sort of had a axe over his head here in Vancouver, anyways, for at least 3 weeks, probably a month. Evander Kane is another UFA. They trade a fourth round pick to Edmonton for him. Everyone's just hoping, hey, if you can move him out for a fourth round pick back, and we just borrowed him for sorry, borrowed him for half a season or 2/3 of a season, like we could move on from that. But I mean, there's been talk like, can they move Demko with he's got 2 years left at $8 million, bad knee, injury history. Who's going to take him on? Is somebody desperate enough to take a shot at him?
The Edmonton
Um,
Oilers.
Well, they already did their move for an injury-prone goalie in Tristan Jarry, who proceeded to get injured.
Right.
But I mean, the big fish here, I mean, they talk like, would anybody take Elias Pettersson? Like, there again, Carolina's name is sort of propped up. He was kind of on their radar a year, 2 years ago.
So he is on pace for like I looked at his historical stats. He had 3 years at around 68, 70 points, and then he had that 1 year that he popped 102 points. So it looks like he's on pace for another 68 point year. Is that
Well,
probably
yeah,
right?
and that's the thing is like he's actually playing like fairly well, but he's making $11.6 million. If he was making $6.5 million, I don't think anybody would be upset with his performance. But I mean, it's also because he was the catalyst that in part caused Horvat to get traded, caused Miller to get traded. Um, they've kind of made they've put their eggs in the Pettersson basket, and it hasn't really sort of produced the fruit that they're looking for, right? So, like, would they want to move on from him? The other discussions that have been had in town here are like, does he need a change of scenery? Like, is he ever going to get back? Like, he shows flashes of the kind of skill set that should get him back to sort of the 85, 90 point player that, and he's a solid two-way guy. Like he plays well defensively. So lots of teams could probably use him as a great number two, like, and somebody who can play up and be a number one. But is he ever going to get back to that level here just because of what's gone on here?
What? So how many years does he have left of his eight-year contract?
I think he's got 6 left.
So this is year two.
Yeah.
So would you get rid of him by sending would you send a first round pick? You know,
No, we're not the Toronto Maple Leafs. We don't unload guys for first round picks.
it was 1 year. It was 1 year. Patrick Marleau had a $6 million contract, and they sent him to Arizona, and they sent their first round pick for
There's
1 year.
there's a just go.
1 year. Kyle
I think
Dubas,
I think it was
University's
I think it
pride
was
and
Carolina.
joy, the management undergraduate program, OHL GM, age 29, plucked from nowhere by Brendan Shanahan, and he sent him over $6 million contract, first round pick. Gave it to
I
Arizona.
think it was Carolina, but well, we can go back and check that one. Regardless, it's like I can now add Patrick Marleau as 2 words to trigger my Leaf friends. Kerry Fraser, Patrick Marleau. I'll try and find a third one to complete the hat trick.
So
But no, but Carol. I mean, going back to Carolina, who have cap space, who have had interest in Pettersson before, would be kind of the the fit there because the Canucks could take back Cook and Niemi's contract, which would be half of what Pettersson's taking. So you take that on. The salary cap's going up, so the 11.6, it's a lot. But that with Carolina, it's not going to hamstring them necessarily. They've got a lot of young players that they won't have to pay for 2 or 3 years.
Right.
So to me, that would be the natural trading partner and a place for Pettersson to potentially land.
Is there a buyout possibility, given that he's got 6
Well,
years
if there's a
left?
buyout, that would hamstring the Canucks for years. I mean,
Oh, I see.
the OEL buyout sort of cost them a couple years of like I think it was they were carrying OEL at 4.8 while he was winning cups in Florida. So or a cup in Florida, anyways. Now he's with the Leafs. So I think they're done paying OEL this year.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, so it was 4 years. I think it was 2.3, 4.8, 4.8, and then 2.3 on
Okay.
his buyout. So
Okay.
they're not looking at buying out Pettersson. It would have to be a trade. Now, I don't even think there would be, depending on what came back, I don't think there'd be salary retention. I think the Canucks would look at saying, send us back some comparable salary, some pieces that we can figure out how to move around. And I mean, a guy like Kotkaniemi could sit there and play second, third line center for the Canucks for the next 3 years while they're waiting on Braden Coots and whoever they end up drafting this year. So, and that's the thing is like right now, if the Canucks can manage, and based on their recent performance, it shouldn't be that hard. They they're in 32nd right now, and there's not. I mean, the Jets are about 3 or 4 points ahead of them, and then there's nobody else that's kind of. I think the Flames and somebody else are at 42 points. Like the Canucks are 5, 6 points clear, so they've done a nice job of positioning themselves in 32nd, which in the worst case scenario in the draft lottery, they'd be picking third.
Yeah, there is good news if the Canucks do this properly. They clear the shelf so that they guarantee themselves, the bottom of the schedule there. So who are possibilities here? Like what are some, like I know McKenna, but who are some
Yeah.
other possibilities as well as McKenna?
Well, I mean, I think the draft class is kind of separated now. There's kind of three guys that are kind of at the top. And I mean, for at least 4 years that I can think of going back, like the 2026 draft has been billed as the Gavin McKenna draft. I mean, it's similar to the Connor Bedard draft, to the Connor McDavid draft. Like since this kid's been 13, 14 years old, people have been talking about his skill, and the skill is like undeniable. So, I mean, he still is, I think, at the top. He's at the top of at least the North American skaters list. And I mean, if somebody passed on him at one, it could be kind of like, am I going to be regretting this for the rest of my short career as a GM or scout in the league? But I mean, he's kind of been caught up. I mean, he's playing. He as a 17-year-old, he left Medicine Hat. He's playing at Penn State University, and they're flush with cash because I think the Pagulas have thrown a bunch of money and built a nice arena and training facility there. And I mean, it's a great place. It sounds like for him to go physically mature. He's getting lots of ice time because he's not playing on a stacked college team like some of like Michigan, Michigan State, the Boston University kind of programs. Um, but I mean, but he's performing well, but he's not dominating in college the same way that Macklin Celebrini did as a freshman. So, I mean, Macklin Celebrini goes out, dominates, wins the Hobie Baker, and he's a consensus first overall pick.
Right.
I think there were some expectations that, oh yeah, McKenna's just going to ease into that. Well, he's 17. He's maybe not as physically mature as some of the men that he's playing against, and it's not like he's struggling, but he's just not dominating.
Right.
And his World Junior performance was solid. I mean, he had some good games, but I mean, I think against the tougher competition, again, he didn't dominate. I think he had 10 points during the World Juniors, but I think 7 of them were against like Denmark and Switzerland, and obviously not against Czechia. So, but I mean, I think McKenna still is. I mean, it'd be hard. You'd be hard pressed to not take him number one based on like 4 or 5 years. And this is what happened to kind of Shane Wright.
Yeah.
Right. Like 4 or 5 years of.
Although Shane Wright, that was the correct call given sort of how long it's taken for him to develop and also where he's landed on the Seattle roster. But if McKenna, okay, so say Vancouver gets to choose number one and they don't take McKenna, then who else would they be considering?
Well, Vancouver loves their Swedish players, and sort of the guy that's trending number one. He's number one on a lot of lists after the World Juniors is Ivar Stenberg, and he's playing in the Swedish men's league right now, and he's on pace he's breaking records, or he's on pace to break the records that Naslund, like Marcus Naslund, Hall of Famer, Peter Forsberg, Hall of Famer, Daniel Sedin, Henrik Sedin, Hall of Famers, that they set when they were draft eligible players in the Swedish Elite League.
Wow.
Like, I think Daniel Sedin has the record he had 42 points in 50 games as an 18-year-old when playing for Djurgården in Sweden. And Stenberg right now, after 25 games, has 24 points. So he's on pace for 48. So it's not like he's on pace to beat it by 1. He's on pace to like pass it by 6, which at that level is like that would be a massive sort of breaking of the record. And he looked really good. He had 10 points in the World Juniors as well, and gold medal. Sort of again, 18-year-old leading the team. The issue that I think both McKenna and Stenberg have from scout perspective is like they're wingers. So I think the last winger to go first overall was I don't know if Lafreniere was counted as a winger when he was drafted, but I mean it might have been Patrick Kane. Like defensemen and centers are kind of the targets, right? And the third guy amongst the sort of top 3 right now, McKenna is I think still the top North American skater. Stenberg is the top European skater. They're kind of 1, 2, but somebody else who's been listed 1 on a few lists and certainly no lower than 3 is a defenseman named Keaton Verhoeff, who played for Victoria in the WHL last year. He's now at North Dakota State, and he was at the World Juniors. He was like probably wasn't spectacular, but he was again a solid performance. They're talking about him coming back and being part of the leadership group next year when World Juniors are in Edmonton. I think he's like a Sherwood Park kid or something like he's from one of the Edmonton suburbs, so he'd be playing a home World Junior.
Wow.
And he's a coveted right shot defenseman. So like he's kind of like if that's who you get third, I don't think you're going to be disappointed. Like all the scouting reports on him are like if you end up with him, like you're not going to be crying. Now he could potentially. I mean, I saw some reports in November saying he'd passed McKenna, and Stenberg still wasn't on the radar. Stenberg's taken huge leaps just in the last 2 months. He's been on people's radar, but not as sort of a first overall. But he is now. Like I think Hockey News or Sportsnet, one of them has got him ranked ahead of McKenna as the top overall pick. And again, Vancouver loves their Swedish guys, and maybe McKenna's got a higher ceiling, but like we were talking about, does he have Shane Wright potential where Stenberg is kind of seen as like, again, the names we just mentioned, like here's how he's performing as an 18-year-old in Sweden. And if that's Naslund, Forsberg, Sedin late production, and the Sedins are sort of assistants here. They're not assistant coaches on the pro team, but they're doing a lot of work with the Abbotsford Canucks, so the HL team, skills training and things like that. I mean, I can't imagine that Daniel Henrik Sedin won't have connections in Sweden that could sort of say, hey, is Stenberg the real deal? If the Canucks have the first overall pick, and right now, if they finish last, I think it's 25% to get the first overall pick, 18% to get the second overall pick. So you have a 43% chance of either 1 or 2, but you got a 100% chance of picking 1, 2, or 3.
Right.
So the 3 names we just talked about are probably where they'd go, and there's a couple other names that are kind of making their way up draft lists. And this might be more for our friends in Calgary, who might be picking 4th, 5th, and 6th. But the one name I know, Corey Pronman.
How's Seattle doing, by the way?
Seattle's doing the Kraken. They're doing a little bit better. Like I think they're, I mean, they're not. I don't think they're in a playoff spot, but they're in that bubble where again, like the teams, the West is similar to the East, and there's a whole bunch of teams that are sort of gathered around they just don't have the same number of points. They're gathered around the sort of 45, 46, 44 points. 2 of them fighting or not 2 of them, like 6 or 7 of them fighting for 2 spots.
You know, our good friend in Seattle. I mean, how could you be a Seattle fan and not be a little bit sore, right? Like $650 million expansion fee. You're following on the heels of Vegas, and Ron Francis just takes you astray. You've got a better fan base. You've got a more knowledgeable sports fan base. You've got amazing support up and down the fan base from just simple, butts in the seats to corporate sponsors. And yet you had the run of the expansion draft pick. But I don't know. I don't know. They just seem to be a little bit of a nothing burger. I mean, Shane Wright, it's interesting. They took him, and I didn't know him other than the hype. And just to watch him I think he got a few games in his rookie year, but he was getting bounced along the boards and in the corners like nobody's business. I mean, he was just not able to hold his ground. But now he looks much, much better. And
but he might end up, and again, like he might end up only being like a 2C, 3C kind of player,
for sure.
Which isn't bad for a career. But if that's he was picked 4th overall. Like that was the year too. I think Seattle had the best odds to win the draft, and they lost out. Montreal got it, and they took Yuri Slafkovsky.
Yes,
who I was going to talk about here in a second. But I mean, he's turning out to be a fantastic player, a big body. It's taken him a couple years to get adjusted too. It might just take Wright like a couple more years. And again, but I don't know if Seattle thought they were going to sort of strike the same magic as Vegas did with sort of some of the. I mean, Vegas had a bunch of guys when Vegas did their draft. I know everyone sort of looks back in hindsight and is like, oh, Vegas had such amazing, like, uh, the draft was set up for them to succeed. Is like, I don't remember many people thinking when they finished their draft that was a playoff team, let alone a team that was going to go to the Cup. I think they thought it's going to be competitive, but I don't remember anybody going like, this is going to be a juggernaut. But all those guys they were all kind of misfit cast off, and they all kind of came together. And in Seattle, it was, again, kind of it's the cast offs, but they haven't just come together, or guys didn't sort of meet their ceilings. And again, they went out and they signed guys. They signed Chandler Stevenson, one of the Vegas misfits.
Mhm.
They signed Philip Grubauer out of Colorado to a big contract, and a couple of guys. Again, Stevenson's been okay, but that's one of your big signings that you come in, and all of a sudden he's filling up a 2C spot. Is that impinging on Benier's time? Is that impinging on Wright's time? Like, would they have been better to say, let's really be a pure expansion team, not be super competitive right away, not try and replicate what Vegas did? And I mean, Francis came in. He'd built a similar kind of team in Carolina, where, like, to this day, Carolina still doesn't have. I mean, Aho's their biggest star, I guess. Svechnikov. I mean, they've built all these. I mean, Francis built teams that were, again, like a bunch of above average players who play well, who can get to the third round of the playoffs, which I'm sure Toronto's jealous about. Um,
Unnecessary.
well, they
He's
they got that positive Patrick Marleau juju when they picked him up.
so well. I was about to say before that smack to the head that Ron Francis is the king of building the San Jose Sharks, right? Sort of close-ish, but not quite.
No,
Not today.
that wasn't
Not
Francis.
today's.
That was Doug Wilson.
No,
Doug
no, I
Wilson was
agree. I agree. What
yeah.
I'm saying is that this iteration of Ron Francis is building what the 15 years ago the San Jose Sharks were. Close but no cigar.
Yeah, but the Sharks went out and they got a guy like Joe Thornton to come in and
Yeah,
kind of
yeah, yeah.
took them to the next level. And that's, I mean, Seattle's going to probably have, I mean, if they drop, but I mean, um, there are other decent players that are on the horizon here. Um, Again, like, so I was just going to go back to the other names we were talking about with Calgary, right? Like, one of the guys, again, Corey Proman at the Athletic kind of had a guy named Tynan Lawrence, who's a center. He's playing in the queue, but he's transferred now to Boston University. Again, 17-year-old going to play in college. They'll sort of see how he might match up with Gavin McKenna, but he's a center and he's a big body. And he was doing decently at the whatever Muskegon, I think, with the team in the USHL, 17 points. He wasn't on Team Canada's World Junior roster, but they've already sort of said they expect him to be there next year. So there's a big body as a center. Again, all these GMs that are center focused might be looking at him, and if he plays well against men in Boston University the second half of the year, he might improve his draft stock.
Right.
Then there's a couple defensemen too, like World Juniors, a Canadian Chase Reid out of Sault Ste. Marie. He's another right-hand defenseman, and he played really, really well at the World Juniors. His stock went up. He's got 38 points in 34 games with as an 18-year-old at Sault Ste. Marie in the OHL. I mean, anytime you're going to be amongst the top scoring defensemen in the OHL, you're going to draw some attention.
Yeah.
And then there's a Latvian kid who played super well at the World Juniors, and he recently got named to the Latvian Olympic team, 18 years old, Albert Smits. So he's got a fun name to say too.
Yeah.
Now, he's a left shot defenseman, so it's unlikely he would sort of vault into the top five. But again, if you're looking for a defenseman, he played so well. I mean, again, like, I'm sort of referencing back the last time we sort of saw a teenager who made an impact at the Olympics. It was Yaroslav Slavkovsky playing for the Slovak team in 2022. Like, he stood out, in his performance at the Olympics vaulted him to first overall. So I don't think that's going to happen with Smits, but I mean, Smits can end up being a top five guy if he ends up having that kind of impact at the Olympics as an 18-year-old.
Right.
Now he's been playing with Latvia, but Latvia's been, I mean, they won a world championships a couple of years ago. We don't know what the ice is going to be like. Maybe they're better suited to sort of taking a shuttle from dressing room to actual rink.
Right.
And we'll see how they do. So, but that's three names. That's, I mean, if I have my friends in Calgary, those are three names that I'd be looking at and going, those are future Flames.
Yeah, yeah. Well, the Flames are in tough as well. They've got to figure out what they want to do. I'm actually a little surprised they haven't pulled the trigger and gotten rid of their tradable assets, but I guess everybody's waiting for the Olympics break and then that'll happen.
Well, I think I heard them talking about, again, I think it was the hockey news show with, I think they were talking about it with Elliot Friedman again, like saying Elliot Friedman, I think, is a bit surprised that Calgary hasn't made a move with him, and surprised that some team hasn't paid the price to get him in. And again, with this big Olympic break coming up, you think that you'd want to get these guys. I think we talked about this our last call too. Like, you think you'd want to get these guys in like sooner than later.
Yeah.
Like if you bring somebody in, the trade deadline's after the Olympic break, and there's a trade freeze, I think, starting February 2nd. So we're only like, what's today, the 13th? Like we're 3 weeks away from a trade freeze. So if you made a trade today for somebody, you might get like 8 games of action in prior to the Olympic break. You think you'd want those guys to get familiar with who their teammates are, not sort of coming back from the Olympics. Or if you're not playing the Olympics in an Olympic break where you haven't been on the ice for 3 weeks, and all of a sudden you're thrown in with a bunch of new guys learning a new system. Like,
Is Conroy just waiting for the market to develop? Is he getting undercut?
I don't know. That's, I mean, the I don't know if they're waiting out sort of a better deal and kind of like trying to play teams off one another. I mean, again, like how much better is the deal going to get? Like if maybe you're waiting, like nobody's sustained a massive injury to a defenseman yet, right? Or Vegas hasn't decided which of their players they're going to put on LTIR to free up space so that Anderson can join them. And Anderson's not that expensive either, right? Like that's the issue with Anderson is what are you going to trade for him if you don't think you can re-sign him?
Yeah.
And if he's kind of done what Noah Hannafin did also to the Flames, which was, hey, I want to be in Tampa. And then Vegas comes in and it's like, oh, Vegas is kind of like Tampa. I wouldn't mind being in Vegas either. So if Anderson's kind of said to them, there's 2 or 3 teams that I'd probably re-sign with, like Columbus probably isn't going to get to re-sign Rasmus Anderson.
Right.
So are they going to pay the price that Conroy wants? But do these other teams, like does Tampa, does Vegas, does Dallas, do they have the kind of prospects and draft capital to pay what the price Conroy wants for Anderson? I mean, if Calgary's going to be doing a reset, this is the first piece that's going to probably bring them back the most.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, Calgary's got to get on it. I mean, for their own good, they cannot allow this trade deadline, the real deadline, to come and go. They just got to get rid of their pieces. They got to fill the roster, clear up a whole bunch of space, and then figure out what they're going to do in the summer.
Yeah, it's kind of for Canadian hockey fans. I mean, the playoffs are going to probably be a little bit depressing because it looks like Winnipeg's not going to make it. Calgary's probably not going to make it. Ottawa's on the outside, so we're going to be left with Edmonton, Toronto, and Montreal, and that's assuming that Toronto makes it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I mean, Edmonton's likely to make it. I don't know if there's Oiler fatigue.
Well, I think everybody wants to see McJesus do it. So,
well, not everybody, but
yeah,
I'm looking forward to another Oilers Kings matchup.
Yeah, those are. Well, what Edmonton's just rolled over them the past two rounds or the past two series.
It's been the last 4 years. Last year, the Kings were up 2-0 and probably should have won Game 3. They probably should have won that series, but they let it slip away.
Yeah.
So that made it 4 in a row. This year would be like, is there a one for the thumb in first round exits? Like I don't know if that's a saying, but
well, we'll make it a saying. How about that?
Yeah. They can give Kings players a glove with 5 fingers. We lost to the Oilers in 5 in a row.
Yeah, that sounds
maybe
like
maybe there's an isotoner ad in there somewhere.
Right. That just sounds like it's got implications that you and I are completely missing. But anyways, moving on to the Olympics. How about them Canadian Olympians on the women's side? Now, we talked about this, and it's going to be them in the U.S. battling it out neck and neck. But what's it looking like for the Canadian side? These women, these women, they're, the PWHL is absolutely fantastic to watch, and I'm guessing that a lot of the Olympians are playing there. But what's our team looking like?
Yeah, well, I mean, we just before New Year's there, we got the announcement for the men's team. I think last week the women's team was announced, and as you just mentioned, like the PWHL is a great location for these women to have a chance to play professional hockey and not maybe have to go to Europe or something like that to do that. But all 23 of the Canadian women are playing on PWHL teams.
Wow.
Like Toronto, there's 6 Toronto Scepters, 5 each on Montreal and Vancouver, 3 each on Ottawa and New York, and then there's 1 on a Seattle Torrent, not the Kraken, the Torrent. So, I mean, they're well spread out amongst the teams too, but I mean, there'll be enough sort of teammates from PWHL teams going over to hopefully have some chemistry similar to what the NHL players like try to do with like Taves and Makar. Like there may be some synergies here. But like I know Marie-Philippe Poulin, who plays for the Montreal Victoire, like she's going to her 5th Olympics.
That's amazing.
Captain clutch. She's got 3 gold medals, 1 silver.
That's amazing.
Medal. So that's just unbelievable. Brianne Jenner, Jocelyn Larocque, and Natalie Spooner, this is their 4th Olympics. So a chance to get their 3rd gold medal. There's 7 women that are going to be making their first appearance. So a shout out to Sophie Jakes and Jen Gardner from the Vancouver Golden Eyes, along with the Save of the Year candidate, Emerance Mashmeyer. I
Yes.
think you saw that highlight. We did review that highlight about a month ago. But this will be Mashmeyer's second Olympics, so she earned a gold medal in 2022. Has a chance to repeat that hopefully here in Milan. Again, assuming the ice surface gets gets completed.
The bucket of water works.
Yeah, that's unbelievable. Hopefully, I mean, I'd hate to see somebody have an injury because of some groove in the ice that the water bucket doesn't properly fill in and harden in time. But speaking of save of the year candidates, did you see the what is got to be the assist of the year
Oh,
now?
yes.
Abby Murphy. She played for the I think Minnesota Gophers in women's NCAA hockey, but an unbelievable taps the puck up to herself in the air, bats it down between the defender's leg, and stops it with her backhand and flips it across to her teammate for a goal. Like an unbelievable skill play at
Unbelievable.
any level, right? Now
Uh,
she was just named as well to the U.S. Olympic team, so that's kind of skill that the Canadian women are going to be facing.
this is a dangerous player. I mean, this is just lovely. So what? You're coming down on the left side on a defenseman. What? Like 60% of the time you're going to go wide. What? 10, 15% of the time you're going to shoot. Maybe if you've got amazing edges and you've got a really tight stick handle, then what? 10 or 15% of the time you're going to try to do a Quinn Hughes or a Cal McCarr. You're going to try to pull up and do a tight little circle and buy yourself space. Like this is a dangerous player to have sort of the killer attitude that I'm going to do something here. I'm not just going to make a good play. I'm going to go through this defenseman. I mean, to have that wherewithal and to pull it off at speed, you can't do anything but just sort of sit back and enjoy. I mean, this is just it's even better than the McJesus pulling Morgan Riley inside out and back again, sort of thing. This lady, it was just lovely. I mean, kudos to her. I hope she doesn't damage us during the Olympics. But you gotta appreciate this. Not only does it bring the fans out of the seat, but you just got to enjoy the killer attitude. I'm not just going to score a goal. I'm going to pull you inside out. There's nothing you can do right now.
Well, I mean, when you watch it in slow motion, you can sort of see the control of the puck on the stick and just the creativity of even thinking this is what I could possibly do. Like you're using percentages there, 60%, 20%, like 0.001% of the time. Are you going to think I'm going to bat this in the air, then bounce it down between the defender's legs? Like it's not like I'm going to keep it on the ice and try and slide it between her legs. It's unbelievable. You watch it in slow motion, it's super impressive, but then you watch it in like real time and you're going like, how the hell did that happen? That's why you have to watch it in slow motion to truly appreciate all the stick work and all the control that went into it. But yeah, hopefully Abby Murphy does not recreate that at any point during the Olympics. We're only like 3 weeks away, not 3 weeks, which is February 5th. So what's that? Like
It's
18,
about
23,
3 weeks. Yeah.
23 days away, just over 3 weeks, 23 days away from the Canadian women women at the Olympics uh, opening up the hockey tournament. I think they play in the Finns. They play the Finns first. There will be a game. I was fearful that maybe there wouldn't be a Canadian US matchup unless they both made it to the finals, but they're February 10th, appointment television to watch the Canadian and the American women's Olympic teams face off in Milan.
Must
Again,
see TV.
knock on wood that the ice is ready so we can enjoy that game, but hopefully that will be the appetizer to a fantastic gold medal game. I know there's some Canadian fans that might hope for a US upset. I would I would say like we want to see Canada US in the gold medal game. Like two highly skilled teams, such a great rivalry.
So I know that we're at Edom on this, but I do want to put in perspective how incredibly sad it is, how bonkers it is that we're talking about we hope that the ice surface is going to be acceptable. This is a violent sport. This is akin to the NFL deciding to play its
Wow.
Super Bowl on a brand new stadium where they're hoping that gophers haven't gone through the field the night before. They're hoping that, like a quarterback's not going to run back and then step right into a hole and get caught there so that a 350-pound lineman can just tear their head off. Like this is unbelievable. The speed is faster than any other sport. They're flying around at 32, 35 kilometers an hour. And then they're cutting tight. For there to be any doubt whatsoever as to the sufficiency of the ice, there have been failures all down the line. The fact that they didn't even bother sort of announcing this to the public until about 10 weeks ago, 12 weeks ago. There have been failures all through the line. It's as if they've pulled we've never pulled an ice rink before. This is, it could work, and just sold that good. And the NHL has agreed to that. Well, yeah, they're going to do it. Like, it's just bizarre. This rink should have actively been under use for a couple of years prior to these games.
Well, at least it should have been done, I'd say, by September, October, to have 3 or 4 months of active games in there to do the test runs. But even just like, they haven't had any test runs of getting people in and out. Like, forget the players for a second. What about fans getting in and out? Like, is that going to delay games? Is that going to be a problem? Like, the logistics for all of this, I mean, that could end up creating as much havoc as the players on the ice.
You need more than 4 months because you need to go through seasons. As you've just said, when you put 15,000 human beings who are breathing, who are moving about,
hopefully,
you are going to raise the temperature and humidity of your enclosed stadium.
Is that how that works?
The fact that, well, yeah, having studied physics, that the fact that you haven't gone through seasons, that you haven't figured this out, that you've just installed your HVAC system 20 days ago, none of this makes any sense. It's too bad, because we're going to get vintage McJesus, and he's going to be playing on soup, or he's going to be playing with potholes. Who knows?
Yeah. Maybe they should have developed a Mario Brothers ice rink construction game and had a whole bunch of kids around the world doing test runs on Nintendo on building a sim arena.
Yeah. Well, it'd probably be better than what we're going to get in 3 weeks. So,
well, let's hope it's in shape, and hopefully the hockey is good quality, because the teams that have been constructed both on the women's side and the men's side look to be formidable, both on the Canadian side, the American side, and a couple of Canada-US gold medal games. Wouldn't be a bad piece of entertainment for the end of February.
Yeah, well said. Excellent. Well, thank you, Jason.
Excellent. Thanks, Greg.
Okay, talk to you soon.
Thank you for watching the Dads Who Talk podcast. Please remember to like and subscribe, and you can catch us on Instagram, TikTok, and Spotify. We look forward to seeing you next time. Goodbye.